Ray Lewis' mother's memorial service.
Long live LaDonna Lewis.
Absolutely. What a beautiful service it was, man. What a beautiful service. I think us attending it really gave you an outlook on why Ray is the way he is. And, like, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know, it's so funny because, like, a lot of things were said about how how his mom was late everywhere, and Ray's like the complete opposite. Yeah. He's always on time. Like, he has, like, impeccable time management. I say it all the time. Like, he's never really late. So it's just, you know, it's crazy that we learn so much about our brother yesterday, man. And it was a wonderful celebration of his mother.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah. And it's deep. First of all, I was wondering with his parents, they had the same last name.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So
that's crazy.
It's Ray Lewis, is LaDonna Lewis, and they got the same last name. You know, he was a drifter. They met. She was like most popular.
Yeah.
In high school.
Right.
She wanted to be the governor. She had political aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is LaDonna.
Mm-hmm.
You know, shout out to Jadonna.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a beautiful service for a beautiful spirit.
Absolutely.
And because we're humans, because we're perfectly imperfect, even the things about, it was so much said about her faith in the Lord. And I believe it's as sincere as one's could be. But it was also a lot of talk about the gambling.
Oh,
and,
well, I mean,
and the praying before the gambling.
Yeah. But, you know, like at the end of the day, man, people are who they are. And I've always had this thing of, you know, just learning how to accept people for who they are. You know what I'm saying? And I think she was well perceived by everybody, man. So I think it was a beautiful thing, man. It was a very beautiful ceremony. It was great to hear all of the people say so many wonderful things, you know.
Yeah.
But man, let's talk about it, man. Let's get into some personal stuff right now, man. I know you got a case going on against you with San Bernardino Courthouse.
Yeah.
Give the people an update about just about your case and what's going on with it right now.
Yeah. So on what was that date? I'm trying to verify. It was, I believe, Tuesday. September 29th, I believe, was the date that the jury came back with a verdict of, or September, it was that Monday, the 28th. They came back with a verdict of guilty.
Wow.
Of delaying or obstructing Deputy Berry. And the judge had laid out 9 different acts that I could have committed to be in violation of that statute, and they all had to agree on one act. Now, the thing about those 9 acts, none of them were crimes, like if we're following the book.
Well, tell us what the 9 acts were. Let our audience get familiar with what it is, how our system can basically come up with basically new charges, or not just come up with new charges, but kind of rewrite the book on how you can be charged.
Yeah. And so the charges go, and it's one charge, but because the way this particular statute is set up, they could have went over just an overall course of conduct or a specific acts that I did, and each person would have had to agree on this specific act. So the judge gave him 9 acts, and this is 9 acts in a total of under 2.5 minutes from the time I walk in to the time I'm tased. So the first, as it says, the people allege that the defendant, me, obstructed or delayed Deputy Berry by doing the following. The defendant ignored 3 commands given by Deputy Berry to check in with the bailiff. That's number 1. Number 1 and number 2 kind of go together. The defendant ignored commands with an S, plural, from Deputy Berry to move to an area beyond the bar or to the bar. Now, the video reflects that were those 2 acts, that was 10 seconds. The record reflects Deputy Berry admits the first thing he said to me was, "Do I know you?" And I responded, "No, I'm here to talk to the clerk." So now that's 2 or 3 seconds. So now we got 7 seconds. And in that 7 seconds, I was supposed to have disobeyed 3 different commands to go check in with the bailiff in this 7 seconds, plus another at least 2 to go to the bar area. So this is 5 commands in this 10 seconds with the intro. So it just made absolutely no sense when the first time, as it's reflected on the video, the first time he pointed me to the bailiff, I went over and spoke to the bailiff. So act number 3, the defendant ignored commands from Deputy Sutton to move to an area beyond the bar or to the bar. Now, when I did turn and speak with Deputy Sutton at her desk, from the time I turned to speak with her until the time Deputy Berry pushed me was 10 seconds. Right. Another 10 seconds. And in that time, she admitted to telling me on the stand, "Hey, sir, only attorneys can pass that bar." So that was the first thing she said, right? And I'm explaining to her, I am an attorney. She acknowledges that. And you see me on the video reach in my back pocket to retrieve my bar card. Then I get pushed. So, but the judge allowed the jury to decide on this. Right, so the judge allowed the jury to
almost
make
like
that.
It's like almost like the judge was playing the role of a DA almost.
Yeah, the DA submitted these as the acts. Then it's for the judge to evaluate. Okay, well, if he ignored commands to go check in with the bailiff, what did that delay Deputy Berry from doing?
Right.
Okay, well, the jury can't decide on that. That's how it was supposed to happen, but it didn't. Number 3, that was defendant ignored commands from Deputy Sutton. Number 4. Now, this is the other thing. Let's say I got convicted for number 3. That means the judge allowed it to be set up to where I could have got convicted for disobeying. I could have got convicted for obstructing or delaying Deputy Berry by disobeying Deputy Sutton. You see how ridiculous it is? Like this act is specific. Like I would have had to resist Deputy Berry or delay or obstruct Deputy Berry. That doesn't transfer to all the other officers, but based on what she did, I could have actually been convicted just for not listening to Deputy Sutton. And it just makes no sense. I could have been convicted of delaying Deputy Berry by not listening to Deputy Sutton, but I wasn't charged with delaying Deputy Sutton.
Right.
So number 4, the defendant attempted to move back around Deputy Berry after Deputy Berry had moved the defendant to the bar. So I'm there handling business. I get pushed because they don't believe I am who I say I am. And I go back, not push through him, but walk around him. She said that the judge agreed that could have potentially been a crime that they could have convicted me of. Number 5, the one I was actually convicted of. The defendant struck Deputy Berry's hand away from his chest when Deputy Berry was attempting to hold the defendant from coming back into the area in front of the bar. That's what I got convicted of. But understand, I wasn't charged with assaulting an officer. I wasn't charged with resisting because the judge made it explicit. I'm not being charged under the resisting theory. Under Penal Code Section 148, I can be charged with resisting, delaying, or obstructing. So they went with delaying or obstructing. The only thing I could resist is arrest. So by her allowing that, which is part of the reason why I feel I was convicted. It's confusing to the jury because they're like, oh, he struck, even though I'm saying I didn't strike it, saying they're like, oh, he struck the cop.
Right.
So that's wrong in their mind. Even though they agreed I had a right to be where I was and he pushed me, they said, oh, it's a problem. And so, but under that, if I'm moving somebody's hand off me and it's a crime, that means he had a right to seize me. And that means I was seized and I resisted that seizure. But how a 3-second act could be a delay, I don't know. Number 6 was the defendant failed several times to give information about his business with the clerk. So you hear me saying I'm an attorney, I'm an officer of the court, I'm here to speak to the clerk. I mean, I wasn't convicted on that, but the fact the judge allowed that to be one of the acts. Number 7, the defendant failed to step outside the courtroom at the initial request of the bailiff, Deputy Sutton. So from the time she initially said to step out to the time I turned to walk out was, maybe 15 to 20 seconds, but the judge would have allowed me to be convicted, once again, for not listening to Deputy Sutton's orders. She was going to allow me to be convicted of delaying Deputy Berry. Number 8, the defendant pulled away from the bailiff, Deputy Sutton, when she attempted to initially escort the defendant out of the courtroom. So they're saying she pushes me, I pull back. That could be a delay, is what the judge allowed. And then finally, number 9 was the defendant threatened Deputy Berry with physical harm while in the vestibule. Mm-hmm. Everyone heard what I said. Mm-hmm. Said, I'm coming after you with everything I have, with everything I learned in law school. Mm-hmm. There's no physical threat. But remember, I wasn't convicted of any of that. It was just number 5. But those are the things that it's like throw it all up against the wall,
right,
and see what sticks. And something stuck.
And I think, man, I'm going to tell you, and this is just me giving my take on your whole case in general. I think what disturbs me about your case is kind of the same things we see in society. I mean, this is a typical case where, number one, they didn't believe you were an attorney. Yeah. Which people make. I mean, it's safe to say that people make mistakes. If you didn't believe this guy was an attorney, why go through the lengths of trying to prosecute someone? Wouldn't it be easier to just apologize and say that, you know what, we made a mistake, we didn't know this, or like, I'm pretty sure if you have got a formal apology, you probably wouldn't be going through this, right? Like,
no, well, definitely not the criminal side. If they would apologize, the reason they had to go all the way is because he deployed that taser, so right. They had to justify that deploying of the taser.
But my thing is, why? You know what I'm saying? What's the problem with it's kind of like the same things that we're seeing right now. It's like they'd rather give away money than to take action or take responsibility for what happened. And it's a revolving cycle in today's society, and it's like it's so sad when you watch all these things that are happening. When you watch cops on TV, wrestling with someone or doing this, and it's like, damn, this is so easy. And it's crazy because like it seems like as if society wants for us to feel like police officers are perfect, and it's no way, because it's been several times where I had to go to work pissed off at whatever was going on at home, whatever a family member may did to me, a young lady, or whatever the case may
I
be.
Could be a big Laker fan and they lost, and now I got to start my shit.
Exactly. So it's like, we can't, like society, they can't like give them the power of just saying that these guys don't make no mistakes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that's the part I think that genuinely pisses me off. Yeah. That we can't just at least just get an apology like,
and
hey,
acknowledgement. But see, it goes deeper because now we're going into systematic, and structural white supremacy, right? Because if they apologize, then I was right. If they apologize, that whole premise of white supremacy, and that's what it's not so much that society thinks cops are perfect.
Right.
It's that society wants us to bow down to cops. Period.
But
Because,
I mean, but at the end of the day, that's all fine and dandy. But what point does society see that police make mistakes? Like what point?
But it's not a mistake if we are inferior. You see what I'm saying? Your son, you tell your son, and your son's not inferior to you in the eyes of the law, but in the authority of the household,
right?
You're superior to your son at this point.
Absolutely.
And so if you tell him to do something, you just got to do it. You could be wrong in telling him to do that.
But no, it has been times where I may have been wrong.
Yeah.
And if I choose to punish him, I'll give you a perfect example. This whole online learning stuff.
Yeah.
All the kids are getting feedback for online learning or or not turning in work, and the parents, they go in on the kids, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. So I may have prematurely punished him too early for something that he ended up doing.
Yeah.
Now, what do I can't just go full-fledged like, you don't punish me, that's just it. Nah. As a man, I got to come back and say, you know what? You did what you're supposed to do. I apologize. I'll take that back. Now you can go ahead and go outside and do whatever it is you want to do. But society is not, it's
but that's because you care about your son. You
want him to be firsthand. It's just
society don't care about us.
But it's even in the school. You don't like I said. You went with me firsthand to the school when we sat down with the district, and I'm telling them when they told my son that what did they tell him that they told him not to speak to a little girl that he had an altercation with, and that if just don't speak to her. And basically, they kicked him out of school for asking the girl for 25 cents and told him that they told him. I'm like, so when you're there, and I'm like, when the fuck did y'all start giving kids restraining orders? You know what I'm saying? You can't give kids
And he was going down the line. It wasn't like he picked her out.
Right.
He went down. Can I get a quarter?
Exactly. So it's like, but the sad part about it, Jaaye, is it starts in our school. If you think about, here's a 11, 12-year-old kid, and they're giving him a restraining order. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not to speak to another little girl that's his peer.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Because he played like he was going to cut her hair.
But what chance? No, what chance do our youth have at like? And it's still, when, like I said, when you're there, they retract the suspension, but they never called him in to apologize for suspending him. They never said they told me that they were wrong for suspending him again, but they never called him in and said, we're sorry that this we shouldn't have did that. And that's the same thing that we're seeing in our system.
Overall, and it's getting them ready for that, because that's the reality of it. It's like, I would love to be able to tell Justin, man, you're going to be good. All you got to do is work hard. And no, I have to tell him and Angelo and Devin and all of the children, even EJ, I have to say, look, in this, you are a full-fledged human being,
right,
with all the rights afforded to any human being.
Right.
But in this land, you are less than.
Wow.
And you need to know that. Otherwise, we're going to have them running around like they're completely free. And then when somebody do something to threaten their liberty and they respond, they're going to get convicted.
But where does this come in at? Because if you honestly think about it, right, what at what age do children begin to make another child feel inferior? Because
Very
like if
early.
you can stick, well, not necessarily, if you stick some 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, they're gonna go out there and play.
Yeah.
They're not gonna care about anything, right?
Yeah.
So like I've always had this thing that racism is
Learned
taught.
behavior.
It's taught.
Yeah.
It's something that's taught, right? But at what age is it taught? You know what I'm saying? Like what?
Very early. And it starts, see, in years past, it was clear. Soon as y'all get past, like, let's go back to slavery.
Okay.
Whereas the little slave boys and slave master boys all played together as kids.
Absolutely.
But
They had no issue.
Then it became a point where master had to explain to his son that your brother is your property and not your friend.
Wow.
And that's what it came down to. And so that's what we're dealing with in this day and age. It's like, okay, the kids, it's beautiful. All the little kids playing together, Rainbow Nation on the sandbox.
Right.
But as soon as the young boy, as soon as Justin stops being, or Enzo stops being a cute little kid,
Right.
now he's an intimidating young man.
Wow.
And that's what the parents are like, hey, man, you got to watch out for that guy. He you know, if Justin just goes in with your mannerisms,
Right.
that's good. That's threatening
Wow.
to people. Just the way we walk and the way we talk and how we'll be in a full-fledged friendly conversation yelling at each other, but in their mind we're being intimidated. They might want to call the police because we're having a conversation of who's the best Laker of all time. Nah, Magic better than Kobe, but nah, Kobe got the fight. Now it's aggressive. It's intimidating, and that's what we deal with, and that's the point. Pretty much, it's taught a little bit earlier, but it really starts manifesting itself around puberty because now you don't have the little kid voice. Now you got a little facial hair. Now you starting to fill in your body, getting little muscles. Now you a whole threat.
Wow.
And that's what we are in this society. We're a threat to the structure. If they just let us go be free, don't burn down Black Wall Street. How many multinational businesses do we have now? Right. We don't need your reparations. We get our own. But it's the threat. You have to keep us in our place. And that's what the school system, that's what the police system, the government in general is here for. And how do we know that's their mission? Because it's in the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
They said we're all men with unalienable rights, but you aren't. And we have to maintain this order under this system. And that's what happened. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to your son. That's what's happening all across the board. And so I have a kid like my boy Angelo. He's non-threatening. He's brown-skinned. That's going to be a threat. But he's short in stature, thin in frame, speaks very eloquently, likes anime. You know, he's not even into aggressive stuff. Like, unless you look at anime as aggressive, he draws art and writes and reads and does math. But the second he stands up as, hey, man, that's not right. Oh, he can think for himself.
Wow.
And he's smart. Well, that's a threat.
You know, the problem that I have about your case, man, is, it kind of bothered me a little bit, man, when I sit up and think about it, man, because I look at you as an individual that went through all the right channels. You know what I'm saying? Like, as you were, all through probably elementary, high school, you know what I'm saying? Straight A student. You always made good grades and did what you want, did all the things you needed to do. And then you get to college, you know what I'm saying? You do your thing there. And then you get to law school where you actually earn a degree and, where you actually finish up law school and then go on to take the bar. And it's just, it's very hurtful to see like a brother of mine that go through all of this stuff, and then you're fighting cases as if you never did none of this shit.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because this isn't the first. This isn't the you're fighting. You had to fight two of your own cases of some type of injustice as an attorney. You know what I'm saying? And that's
just two out of three total. But I've been arrested 4 times
as an attorney.
Yeah,
and you know what I'm saying? Do you realize that like there are people that haven't done any of these things? Like I know people that have been in jail that have been arrested maybe twice and maybe did a little bit of jail time, but you went through all these proper channels and you've been arrested 4 times. Like
and it's for the first time, the LAPD want to do a big demonstration on the lowriders and everybody at the Ralphs on Manchester and Western, and I'm just standing out there. They got one of the exits blocked, and they checking people identification. I'm just letting people know there's another exit. You don't have to go through this exit.
Right.
I get wrestled and arrested for that. Just being in that parking lot, not by the police. The police walked up behind me after they hear me telling people their rights. And but I wasn't prosecuted for that. It was just an arrest, and they dismissed that arrest. Then Inglewood PD arrested me like, oh, you think you're intoxicated? No, I'm not doing your test. No, well, I'm going to arrest you. Okay, well, let's go. Got to go to trial for that. And that was crazy because in that trial, I told him, no, I'm not doing your test, period. Like, I'm not doing field sobriety tests. I know they're optional. I'm opting not to do them. The Sergeant Charles of the Inglewood Police Department got on the stand and said, I put my mouth up to the machine and puffed up my cheeks, but wouldn't blow. Like, he just made that up. It's not in none of the reports. It's never been mentioned, but on the stand, that's what he said, just to try and make it seem like I was being difficult in the situation and not just simply exercising my rights. But still, we go to trial, not guilty on that. Then in Vegas, just driving, get pulled over for speeding, pulled out the car, handcuffed, no jacket, it's so cold, I'm asking to be put in a police car, searched for 45 minutes out there in the cold. They done handcuffed my girl and my South African house guest, brought out ice for the South Africans, all of that because they're the gang, drug, gun task force and they think we're criminals passing through, not just people going to Vegas for a weekend before the South Africans go back to South Africa. I get, after 45 minutes, finally get let out of handcuffs, given a ticket for speeding and no insurance. Tell them I got insurance. You'll have your day in court. But look, before you go, we're going to search your car. No, you can't search my car. Search the car, find my guns. It's a big bust now. All my legal guns, they did all that just to return them and then arrest me, saying and added an obstruction charge that a judge convicted me on, saying that I told my passengers not to identify themselves, and that's why it took 45 minutes, because they needed to get them identified. When I see this on the police report, I'm like, cool, because there's body camera footage that shows everybody give their information the first time they ask, and you never hear me say, don't talk to them. All you hear me say is, they got your information, let them know you're represented in this state and you want an attorney if they want to talk any further. That's what you hear me saying. But I get to trial ready to play the video. The cop kept turning his body camera footage off, so I didn't have one continuous video. It was like a bunch of shorter videos, 5 minutes, 1 minute, 10 minutes. Judge say, well, since you can't provide one continuous video, I'm not going to look at none of the videos. And the cop stopped the video. Like, how can I? So this is that level of injustice, but I'm like, still, it's no jury. And so when the bar looked at that, they initiated disciplinary actions against me based on a conviction, because with the bar, a conviction itself is it provides a presumption that I did something wrong. But they still have to do their own independent investigation to determine whether I actually did something wrong. So when they looked at it, They looked at the video. They looked at the officer's testimony lying, saying he didn't shut off his camera. And they got the video directly from the police, not from me, right? So they dismissed the charges because they recognized that I hadn't done what they said I was convicted of. So that's why that's why I was not disciplined for that. And now I'm in a courtroom actually trying to do my job. The one place where I'm supposed to have superior credentials. You know, I'm a officer of the court. I actually passing the bar. It's a literal thing as far as the exam, but it's also, it comes from being able to pass that bar in the courtroom that separates the working area from the gallery. That's where the term comes from, passing the bar. So I did all that, and while working, I got assaulted and tased and tackled and arrested. So, yeah, it's not, and what I learned is that in all those situations, I was acting as if I was a full-fledged citizen. And that's what, had I recognized my inferior status,
right,
then maybe at the Rouse parking lot, I just leave because the cop said leave. So
with all these charges and everything that's going on, what let our audience know what exactly are the penalties that you'll be facing since you were convicted.
Yeah.
That the judge has, to...
Yeah. The judge can sentence me to up to 1 year in the county jail and a fine of $1,000 or both. So any combination. She could just fine me. She could give me jail. She could give me probation. I'd have to accept probation, which that's a decision I'd have to make, right? Because especially if you're trying to put search conditions on me, like because when you're on probation with search conditions, I mean, a cop can stop you for any reason at any time and search you and your vehicle. So, or my home, so that's something but if not, maybe she sentenced me to 6 months in the county. Wow. So that's that. The other thing that people need to recognize is that while I was facing criminal charges, I couldn't get none of the SBA, PPP loans or none of that everybody got during COVID. Because when I started let me get this, fill out the application. Are you facing any criminal charges in any court? Yeah. Application declined for criminal activity. So that's just one of those other factors that most people don't even consider. Who would have known COVID was going to happen? But that's all the things, as well as it's still going to initiate another bar investigation. So they might say, "Hey, man, we tired of this. You where there's smoke, there's fire. You did something, so we gonna discipline you." So all these things, and I'm talking worst case scenarios out here, but that's what I'm actually facing. Like I could go into court November 6th and get sentenced to a year in the county and not see outside again until May because it will be served at halftime. Like that's what it's really like right now. Every night I go to sleep until November 6th. I could be sent to the county jail for a year because this man decided to push me. And the thing about that push, when I struck his hand, he put his hand on my chest. I brought my hand up and I let him know my displeasure, but he moved his hand. It wasn't like I pushed his hand. I put enough pressure to let him know I didn't want to feel it, but had he not moved his hand, we just would have been sitting there with my hand on his hand and his hand on my chest. Right. So he did that. Now, I know it looked like, because of the act, it looked like I did. But even if I did, one of the jurors told me after the case, like, that'd have been my natural reaction. Don't push me. So that's him saying he got the right to do it, but I don't. So because I'm inferior.
You actually get to speak to the jurors after?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Personally,
yeah.
Like
if they're willing to talk. And what's unique, one juror just sent in an email to the judge and the DA and the attorneys saying it was wrong. I made the wrong choice. I shouldn't have done that.
Oh, really?
Sent the whole email.
So what? I mean,
that don't mean nothing because it's the verdict's recorded.
Done.
Yeah, but it's like,
they should have stood on that when they were
but that's why 7 hours of deliberation.
and then just one person just ended up giving up. So
that's what it was. So
that's crazy.
They just beat him. Somebody's in there like, nah, we got to get him for something. But you got 9 things on the board. It's like you go through all of these. Nah. That they told me, yeah, we all agree you shouldn't have been tased. That was wrong.
Do you think the system is wrong for them to make everybody agree, or do you think they should go more so off of like
a majority rule?
Majority rules.
No, yeah. I agree with the unanimous verdict because had that juror, I'm not even sure if it was a he or she, but because they didn't say like juror number 9 and I don't recall their names.
Right.
So
because they don't tell you the names.
Yeah. Had that they do, but I just didn't recall it. We don't keep the list. They give it to us during jury selection, then we have to turn it back in at each break. So what I just in that, those jurors, those people, I agree with the unanimous verdict, because had she held out, I wouldn't have been convicted, or he or she held out, I wouldn't have been convicted, period. And so I agree with that. And it's, just at the end of the day, it really doesn't, the only reason it makes sense is because I am of a class of people that have an inferior status. That's the only reason that justifies the way I was treated that day and leading to a criminal conviction. Is that I'm a nigga and I should have known I was a nigga. And because what they said is that I don't have a right to control my own body. So I had to let that man keep his hand on my chest.
Which is wrong.
That's what they said. So if with everything that happened, had I just allowed him to keep his hand on my chest and not done anything to express my displeasure, I wouldn't have got convicted according to them. So they like, nah, you was a nigga. White man touched you and you removed his hand. Well, how dare you?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what it was. A juror, it was Asians, Latinos, whites, and there's a bunch of Asian and Latino people, Indians, Armenians, who are outraged by this. None of them were on the jury that day, but there's a bunch of people. So I'm not making no blanket statement, but I also know, I don't say people of color when I'm talking about this level of racial injustice.
Give us a little bit of a. Give us a little bit of an idea of how the your community of attorneys, and not just the black ones, just attorneys, period. How do they feel about what happened to you? Have a lot of people reached out to you? Are they trying to? Is it some other organizations trying to reach out? And help you?
And I'm a life member of the Langston Bar Association, which is one of the black bar associations in Los Angeles. You have Langston and Black Women Lawyers. I'm a member of Black Women Lawyers, but not a life member. Actually, I got to pay my membership dues, I believe.
Pay them dues.
I'm a life member of the California Association of Black Lawyers.
Okay.
And so part of the reason I was a little delayed this morning, I was talking to one of the board members from the Langston Bar about how they can give support. And for all of them, most of them are like, you ain't going to be convicted. There's no way you'll be convicted.
Right.
And so
because I felt the same way.
Yeah. So everybody's like, man, if that's not even going to go to the jury. Right. So we don't need to take no action. And now I'm convicted. People are like kind of shocked. Like, oh, it can happen to me too. Right. And so now we're getting to mobilizing. The good brother Ben Crump, I thank him for his tweet about and IG post about the incident. That's what got more national attention about it. I did an interview with the Atlanta Black Star based on
Ben Crump is the lawyer that normally takes all of the
a lot of the big cases.
Trayvon Martin.
He started with Trayvon Martin. Yeah. That gave him that national profile, and he's just maintained because this is what a lot of people on the West Coast. He is a Southern dude,
right?
Talk like it, as brown as a brother can be, and they listen to the accent. They don't listen to the words. If you listen to the words, you know Ben Crump is one of the greatest legal minds this country has ever seen. If you listen to the words, but they listen to his accent, and because society and movies have told us like people with these accents can't be as smart as these people, a lot of people out here write him off. But brother, one of the coldest legal minds. I've been to the conferences and seen him present as a presenter in these conferences that we have to go to get our continuing legal education hours. He's one of the greatest legal minds, and he was aware, but he also didn't think it was a real possibility that it was going to happen. But he pointed out something significant. He's like, usually his cases come to him because somebody fit the description. Here's a situation where I didn't fit the description, and I got treated that way. And that's, I never thought about it that way. But once again, he's got one of those minds that look at things that way. So, through the National Bar Association, I've received a lot of support, a lot of letters. But also my brother Shaheen Karalia, who's an Indian cat who works for a firm in New York. Mm-hmm. He's offended. And he got his people, he's gotten like over 100 letters from his network sent in on our behalf. So the legal community is standing up. You do have those people that are like, well, why was he dressed like that? Why was he talking like that? And with those folks,
wait. When you say talking like that, what does that mean? What does
I
it
guess
mean?
Once I told the bailiff he fucked up and I'm gonna come after him with everything I have and everything I learned in law school.
That's anger.
Yeah, I was upset. And
Absolutely.
At this point, we were out of the courtroom.
Right.
We had nothing left to do. I gave her the case number, so all that was left to do was for her to go check.
I just want to shed a little bit of light on the case too, man, because one thing that I noticed when I watched the video, and for our listeners that haven't seen the video, you can find the video on. It might be on the We Not For Sale page.
Yeah, it should be.
And also you can check out Jaaye's page, Lincoln Lawyer.
Lincoln Lawyer LA. Yeah.
Lincoln Lawyer LA. You can go to his on Instagram, and then you can see a clip of this this whole video. But it's one thing that disturbs me on the video is how the deputy had that taser behind his back.
Yeah.
Like, is that protocol? Like,
No.
Are they taught? No. Because, I mean, like, I think, like, for instance, like, I feel like if you're getting ready to tase someone, there should be some type of warning, right? Like, you should have it either in your hand like this, like, hey, however, I'm gonna tase you if you don't calm down. But if you have it behind your back, I mean, that's like an element of surprise, isn't it? Like,
and he was waiting for an opportunity because their policy says you must give a warning unless you don't have time.
Why was that not brought up in court? Like,
it was
did
Deputy
your attorney
Sutton
bring it up?
Yeah,
or?
Deputy Sutton my attorney asked Deputy Sutton, so when are you trained to put a taser behind your back? We're not. We're not trained to ever put a taser behind our back.
So
there's
nothing on. So the judge didn't bring up that he used illegal protocol, because that's typically illegal,
that's the thing.
Right?
His thing is because you remember on the tape, don't step up, clench your fists, and all of that.
But he said that to protect
he
himself.
Could justify the use, saying I didn't have time to warn him.
Right.
Even though he says I got within a foot of him, and this is how white supremacy works. You have 3 people in this vestibule. One's a black attorney, one's a black deputy, one's a white deputy. The black attorney and the black deputy have the same story. I was standing, she says 2 to 3 feet, I say 3 to 4 feet. But we both say 3, so that's not that far off. I'm directly in front of her. He's, according to her, 2 to 3 feet to her right and behind her. When I get tased, she's looking down, she hears it, she looks up, I'm in the same position, according to her. Mm-hmm. I say the same thing. I never moved to him. Mm-hmm. But the white man say, I got within a foot of him, and that's why he didn't have time, and he gets believed. The white cop over the black cop and the black attorney that have the same story.
So the female officer, she happens to be black.
Yeah.
And it was another black attorney in there.
Well, no, I'm the black attorney. When I say that,
Oh, okay.
I'm the black attorney.
Well, so her story, do you feel like her testimony was the truth?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there was some things that I felt like she was doing to try and help this out, but she testified there was no reason for me to be tased. There was no reason for me to be arrested. I was never a threat to her, and she never perceived me as a threat to Deputy Berry. That's what she testified to.
What is the height of this woman?
She's about 5'8".
So she's taller than you.
She's bigger than me. He's about 6'1". He bigger than me. They both got guns. They both got tasers. I've been through security.
And for the record, the deputy is what, 6'1"?
Yeah.
And how tall are you?
5'3", 3/4. I need all my inches, man. I need all my.
But no. I say that to say that, not saying the height doesn't matter, but I mean, I think there's a fine line when people are saying, if you got a guy here if you got a guy that came into the courtroom, because everybody's searched before they come into the courtroom.
Searched.
You can't get in there you can't even get into the courtroom with any type of sharp object or anything like that, right?
Not even a lighter.
Not even a lighter, right?
Man.
So evidently he knew that you came into this place weapon-free, anything, all this stuff. So, and then you got a guy that has a taser, a gun,
a little billy club, the kind that extracts,
pepper spray,
all of that,
handcuffs,
all of that.
You know what I'm saying? Extra
and
bullets,
a whole team of people,
and a radio. You know what I'm saying? The radio, you can't outrun a radio.
Nah.
So then you got a guy that's 5'3", coming into the courtroom, and you felt
so afraid. He said it was completely self-defense. I was in fear he was going to attack me.
Wow. Then those type of people shouldn't be protecting us.
Period. If that is the truth, you cannot be, and you should not be able to be an officer if you are that afraid in that situation.
I think at the end of the day, Jaaye, I'm going to be honest with you.
It's a bold-faced lie.
It is a bold-faced lie, and it's one of those things where we gotta like I said, people need to get back to saying, hey, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. It's one of those things. I've done security before. I've done security in nightclubs and things in that nature where people had guns in the club and people, you know what I'm saying? And I've worked with people where we took guns off of people. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't have any of the equipment that the police had. So me going to work every day, I never was in fear I never feared my life or felt that someone was, I didn't go to work scared. I knew that I was going to work where people were going out to have a good time, and that sometimes there may be some ignorance and then I may have to deal with it. Yeah. That's the mentality that I went in. Now, sure, it was some days where I went in and I just didn't, I know for sure I went in and I didn't feel like dealing with certain bullshit or whatever the case may be. But it never did I feel like, I'm scared to go to work or I'm scared of this person because, like I said, we didn't have. Only reason they finally gave us bulletproof vests because a guy that worked with us got stabbed, and he got stabbed with a woman's shoe. You know what I'm saying? Like he got in the middle of a hill or something. And he ended up getting stabbed. So they like, we're gonna get you guys vests. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Meanwhile, the sheriffs, they out there they had
and he got vests.
They had everything. They got a vest. They had everything.
Now let's bring it back full circle.
Yeah,
we talked about at what point black men become threats.
Right.
Now the thing about the way white supremacy works is that everyone that comes here comes and assimilates.
Right.
Part of the assimilating into America is white supremacy and black inferiority. That's the culture. And the fear of the black man as a predator. So that is what the jurors identified with.
Wow.
The fear. Like,
Wow.
because they said, now remember, it's a 3-second act. And he testified the delay was, and this is how ridiculous it is. He said his main duty as a custody deputy is to man the lockup area in that right outside the courtroom. His secondary duty is to provide security for the courtroom. So that's part of the ridiculousness of the conviction, is that because he did everything he did to me based on his duty of providing security for the courtroom, but because he had to do that with me, he couldn't carry out his duty as a custody deputy, and that's what I delayed or obstructed him from doing. So, if you follow that logic, every cop out there on a DUI task force who stops somebody for talking on their phone while they're driving is now being obstructed or delayed from stopping DUI drivers. And so they should get a 148 too under that philosophy. So it's that level of ridiculousness. But the fact that was the act, they said, the couple jurors that talked to me said, once you removed his hand, that made him heightened to focus more on you. And that's why he had to follow you out there, even though nobody asked him. And that delayed him. So because I followed Deputy Sutton's order to leave the courtroom, that obstructed or delayed him from doing his job because he followed when nobody asked him to. And so, but they identified, for them to come to that conclusion, they had to identify the reasonableness of his fear of me. Because I'm a threat. And that's what they can all identify with, is a black man is a threat.
Wow.
And that's just point blank period. That's how it is, man. It's crazy that we done made it through this hour.
I know, and I'm really sorry that happened to you, man. I just want you to shed a little bit more light on what type of support. How can the people reach out? What is it? What is it? What type of support would help you through this case?
So right now, I am seeking people to write letters. There's two. There's a letter that you would address to the judge, but you would send it to me or my attorney. And, we can provide my email address. And that would be part of our mitigation package that we submit to the judge, asking either she still has the power to dismiss the charges, or just in the alternative, if you aren't, just give a fine and no probation or jail. So that would be and express how you feel about the whole case, and that you can the DA still has the power to dismiss it at this point. So I'm also asking people to reach out to the DA via Instagram, email, write a letter. And, I've had posts where I've provided that information. And then also we do have a GoFundMe, because now I do have to do an appeal. So I have to get resources for that. In the event I do go down for 6 months or a month or whatever, that's time that I'm not out earning for my family and providing. So we're trying to recruit resources for that eventuality or that possibility. So those are the kind of things that the kind of ways you can support. And we have a change.org petition where we're approaching 2,500 signatures, and we want to get that up to at least 5,000 by the time that we submit the mitigation package to the judge, which will be at the end of this month in preparation for sentencing November 6th.
Okay, man. Well, I hope we can, all my listeners, all my We Not For Sale fans, and
find us on all the platforms.
All the platforms. Let's do what we can. Let's do what we can to come together and help my brother out. And man, I really hope that that this thing is just overturned, and that we get some type of justice for you.
The one good thing about this is that for all those people that didn't think it was possible, Now they know it's possible.
Wow.
Now, hopefully, they step into the game a little bit more, because it could be you, doctor, lawyer, engineer, accountant. It could be you too. And now, we need to understand that. But I'm very thankful for the support and the love, just of people reaching out. Find us at We Not For Sale on
Absolutely.
Instagram, WEKNOTFORCELL. We're on the podcast, on all the different podcasts.
All the major platforms.
So check us out, support, understand we're unapologetically black. Even through this, I still stand on my actions that day. I still say I didn't do anything wrong. I acknowledge, and especially in that Atlanta Black Star article, I acknowledge it is the custom to go into court with professional attire, but I also acknowledge there's many circumstances that happen daily in courtrooms that for these trivial matters send people in the courtroom who are not business attire. And there's even attorney services that are runners that go in, they're runners. They're dressed on a bike and stuff you would wear on a bike, drop off, pick up, and go on about their business. So that's all I was trying to do. Because I am a solo practitioner, I was acting as my own runner that day, like my own paralegal. And so that's what it was. So, that's just what it is at the end of the day. Thank you for the support. Validation is for parking.
And we are not for sale.
At all. My man, Jamers.
L.A. Straight up. Just go out to L.A. The new anthem. California Love Part 2. One time. To live and die in L.A. West side. To live and die in L.A., where everybody try to fatten their pocket. So many hustle for the cash, so it's hard to knock it. Everybody got their own thing, currency.